exciting Apple developments. Starting with the iPhone 16, we're only 2 months away, and more details keep emerging day by day. So recently it's been reported that fast charging might finally be getting a boost from the current 27 watts, unofficially, up to 40 watts, with MagSafe charging also going up from 15 watts to 20 watts. Now, these wired numbers are definitely nowhere near other manufacturers, like OnePlus is insanely fast 100-watt charging on the recently announced Nord 4, that can take it to 100% in just 28 minutes. But nevertheless, I think it's still nice to see some improvements from Apple here. There is, however, one big caveat here. These increased speeds are said to only be available on the Pro models, which at first glance is incredibly disappointing to hear, as Apple still has by far the slowest charging speeds on any phone right now. And what is more is that it's been quoted that these speed increases have been implemented in order to balance and improve the problem of increasing charging time caused by the increase in battery capacity. Now, this leads me to believe that although we are technically getting up to a 48% faster charging here, it is possible that because of the larger batteries of the iPhone 16 Pro models that we know we are getting, we may not see that much of an improvement in terms of the overall charging time. Like, if we go by the numbers, sure, the 5% larger battery on the 16 Pro Max should charge up to 43% faster than the 15 Pro Maxes, which would give us an exact charge time of 50% in 20 minutes. But of course, that would be at peak efficiency, which is almost never the case. So my guess is that at best, we may see maybe a 50% charge in 25 minutes, down from 30. Of course, that I would love to be proven wrong here, as Apple desperately needs much faster charging here. But anyway, we'll have to wait until September to find out, so be sure to subscribe, as we'll make sure to put out these battery claims to the test. Speaking of putting things to the test, you should definitely test out Clean My Phone. MacPaw, the company behind Clean My Mac, Digitimes reported that there's a chance of some Face ID related design changes in the iPhone 16, with the original source claiming that Apple was expected to overhaul the Face ID system on the iPhone 16 models. As of now, it's completely unknown as to what these changes could mean. Very early rumors did hint at a fully under-display Face ID system, but this was obviously debunked by display analyst Ross Young, who said that this is no longer expected until possibly next year. And even that would be at the very earliest. So we'll have to pay attention during the September Apple event to see if Apple mentions any Face ID changes that could be related to this rumor. But if you guys have any ideas, I would love to hear your thoughts. Maybe Face ID will be able to work from a greater distance, allow for more angles, or even be even quicker. Okay, now our next story is probably the most exciting change to come to the Apple Watch in its whole existence. And no, I'm not talking about the Apple Watch Series 10, which was said to be the biggest change ever, although that might not be happening anymore. A video about that and some updates right here. So I'm actually talking about the Apple Watch SE, as potentially it could be going all plastic. Yes, Mark Gurman has recently stated that Apple is working on a new version of its lowest cost Apple Watch SE model, and that one idea that the company has tested is swapping out the aluminum shell in favor of a rigid plastic shell. Personally, I just hope that this means we'll get a version of the Apple Watch SE that reminds us of the iPhone 5C from back in the day, with those really vibrant colors and all that fun marketing. That was so awesome, so I do hope that Apple brings all of that back. Now, it does make a lot of sense as to why Apple might want to do this. Although the iPhone 5C was seen as a failure for not selling more units than its 5S counterpart, it still sold over 24 million units, and it essentially acted as a gateway towards the more expensive iPhones. Like, Tim Cook even said that the 5C was the most popular choice amongst new iPhone users. So maybe Apple is hoping for the same effect here, but with the Apple Watch SE. Taking a look at it, it is the cheapest Apple Watch that they sell today, at just $250 as opposed to the Series 9, which starts from $400. The current Apple Watch SE, just like the iPhone 5C, is the official lowest point of entry into owning an Apple Watch. Yet, it hasn't really seen an update since 2022, and it's still using that very same design as the Apple Watch Series 4 from 2018. So yeah, it's not a great look. If Apple were to update the Apple Watch SE, let's say tomorrow, and follow the same approach that they've done in the past, so just, some new aluminum colors and then a new chip, which, let's be honest, the majority of people aren't really too fussed about, yeah, I don't think it's going to drive up enough excitement to really get people talking about it and, attract the lower end of the market. Get the cost down to something that could better rival Samsung's cheapest watch, which is the $199 Galaxy Watch FE. And there's no better way to accompany this than with a fresh, punchy color overhaul and friendly marketing that could go back to the fun days of colorful Apple products like the 5C, and let's also not forget the iPod, which still had one of the best marketing ever. Now, just before I talk about some big changes coming to the HomePod, I want to touch more on some potential plastic issues that you're all probably thinking about. Like, is this design of the Apple Watch SE a downgrade? And also, is there a durability concern? Well, I think it could be very prone to light scratches, just like the iPhone 5C was, but it's possible that it might hold up better to everyday dents and scuffs compared to its aluminum counterparts, which might be a plus for a watch that you're, encouraged to wear every single day. Not even to mention that a plastic body will make it even lighter than the current aluminum model, something that is very important for when you're doing cardio work. After all, the Apple Watch Ultra ended up being less accurate than the Series 8 and 9 due to it moving around because of its increased weight. We also need to remember that this Apple Watch SE change could also work in Apple's favor, making the lineup much easier to choose from. Let's say the SE does become plastic, but you do prefer that aluminum strength and feel. You can then jump on to the next model, and this material change will feel like a more significant upgrade, just like how the Apple Watch Ultra gives you that titanium body over the Series 9. The Apple Watch SE, at the end of the day, is the gateway into the Apple Watch, and the more people it can appeal to, the better. So I think that going plastic with a variety of colors would be one of the best choices that Apple could make. And if you want to see a full video on this future Apple Watch SE, then definitely leave a comment down below and also join our Zoneoftech Discord and continue the conversation there too. Okay, now right after WWDC of this year, we got some fairly disappointing news, which were not that unexpected, and that is that the HomePod is not going to be getting any of the newly introduced Apple Intelligence features. Mark Gurman stated that Apple Intelligence requires a minimum of 8 GB of RAM. But of course, the HomePod and the HomePod Mini, they only have a single gigabyte of memory, hence why we're not getting Apple Intelligence on them. And so applies to the iPhone 15, which also has less than 8, so this is why we're only getting Apple Intelligence on the 15 Pros and the 16 series. But regardless of the processing limitations, the Apple Intelligence HomePod experience just wouldn't be very good, or at least not as good as it could be, as obviously you don't have a screen, so all that you would be getting would be Siri's more natural language responses, and maybe a summary of today's news and some of your next appointments, but that's pretty much it. Like, don't get me wrong, I would still love to see it, although Apple Intelligence on the HomePod is likely reserved for that upcoming model with a touchscreen display. Speaking of which, a new tvOS 18 leak hints at just that. Look, the idea of a HomePod with a screen is nothing new. We actually first heard about this back in March of 2021. However, this month, leaks surrounding this new HomePod with a screen device have increased, and it's looking like Ming Chi Kuo's 2024 release date prediction might actually be coming true. Another leak from this month comes from backend code discovered by MacRumors that confirms Apple's work on a home accessory. This code references a device identifier home accessory 171. And, as MacRumors have noted, this is a completely new identifier category. What's even more interesting here is that this 17.1 identifier name can be linked to the A18 chip coming in September's iPhone 16 series. A chip with enough rumor power to drive Apple Intelligence features. So, Apple Intelligence HomePod confirms? Not really, but it is more likely, and it does make me wonder if we could potentially see a one more thing at Apple's September event. Although I'm a bit doubtful, as this does seem more of a WWDC announcement for next year, and we also have Mark Gurman going against Kuo's prediction for a 2024 release date. He also believes that 2025 would be more likely. Also, when we consider that Apple Intelligence features are not going to be fully available until at least iOS 18.4, which is said to be coming in the spring of 2025, then a WWDC announcement next year for this HomePod with a screen is definitely sounding more and more probable. I mean, yeah, there's a lot to unpack regarding this HomePod, so just like with the Apple Watch SE, if you guys want to see a full video on it, then do let me know down in the comments, and yeah, we'll make it happen. But speaking of making things happen, we've now updated our Wallpapers website store with 6 new packs for
gonna look like. I just got a few dummy models in of the upcoming iPhone 16 and the iPhone 16 Pro Max. First up, let's compare the iPhone 16 to the iPhone 15. Based on this, they look like they have basically the exact same exterior dimensions. This dummy does have the SIM card slot because it's the international version, but you can see the action button is coming to the base iPhone 16, 16 Plus. We have the new capture button here, and then the redesigned camera module with that flash off the side, which is going to be a pain in the butt for camera or case manufacturers. The 16 Pro Max compared to the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Starting off dimensionally, the new one is a bit taller, which tracks because we heard it's going to go from a 6.7 to a 6.9 inch display. See all the other buttons the same. The new capture button there on the side, very excited for that. And the camera
have gone down, and the iPhone 16 doesn't look very promising either. Here are 3 reasons why Apple might not bounce back with the iPhone 16. Firstly, there's not going to be a major redesign this year. Yes, there are rumors about a new capture button just like the action button expected to be added just like the Sony Xperia phones. But apart from that, the look itself for the 16 Pro series might not change much. And for the 16 series, it might go back to a vertical camera layout, which will be very interesting to see. Secondly, people are expecting larger batteries and faster charging speeds. Well, that's not happening until 2025. If this final rumor comes true, then Apple will lose to Android flagships this year. Because apparently iPhone 16 series will have a limited set of AI features this year compared to Android flagships. And the reason for this is apparently due to some hardware limitation, which means that you will have only on-device AI processing. If you're an iPhone fan, would you buy the iPhone 16 series after finding out about these rumors? Let me know in the comments.
iPhone 15, and this is the iPhone 16. Look, I get it. The iPhone 15 is like less than 2 months old, but we've already got new info on the iPhone 16 you need to know. The design really isn't going to change much from the 15 to the 16. In fact, this is actually just a dummy model of the iPhone 15, but I'm using this for illustrational purposes as the 16, since the design is going to be basically the same. Though with that said, there are a couple of big changes here to note. One is that the notch may dramatically shrink down just to a single little circular hole punch. It also looks like they actually may go forward with removing the actual physical volume buttons and just give us this sort of fake button. And they also might be putting a new button right around there. We also might be getting some bigger Pro iPhones with the iPhone 16 series, as the 16 Pro will go from 6.1 to 6.3 inches, and the 16 Pro Max going from 6.7 to 6.9 inches. Of course, more changes will be coming soon over the next couple of months, but that's the big stuff we
from China, and you can probably tell from the labels that there's something iPhone related inside. Well, I mean, these numbers indicate that. 16 Pro Max, 16 Plus, these are obviously not the official iPhone 16 products. Those don't exist yet. However, inside is the closest look, I guess, you can get at the moment of what those phones are going to look like, because these things always come out of China prior to the actual iPhone launch. So let's start by unboxing the one that's labeled 16. And the shocking thing that you're going to notice immediately is the new layout of the camera section. And you're going to decide right now whether you love or hate this decision by Apple to change this area, because obviously in the past it looked quite a bit different. So here is the iPhone 15 compared to the iPhone 16. And I don't know, this was kind of intriguing, the diagonal layout. It was distinctive. You knew it was an iPhone, whereas this layout is a little bit more typical, obviously. Some other interesting findings here. We have this. Is this going to be a secondary button? It's not going to be removable storage, obviously. Anyway, a dedicated button for Apple Intelligence? Yeah, sure, maybe. Obviously, we have this little button here where you used to have the switch, but then that changed on the Pro models. We have our volume buttons, individual, and then the SIM slot on the other side. Down here, of course, we're gonna have Type-C, speaker, and then I gotta pull this sticker off here. Oh, it's one of these annoying ones. Oh, actually, very faint Apple logo being hidden by the sticker for shipping purposes, I'm sure. Now the colors, what can we learn from it? Honestly, we never really know. Sometimes these early samples will have colors that don't end up coming to fruition, but this is like a pale pink type of color. The frame, however, looks like a typical aluminum color. It doesn't have a very strong pink tone on this particular model. Otherwise, the dimensions here look fairly identical, height and width. If I look at them from the front, almost no changes to the form factor by the looks of it, and the biggest change occurring in this camera department, and then obviously with your colors. Hopefully we have some different colors here with the other models so we can compare. This is labeled as 16 plus. This gives us a glimpse at the black screen protector. It's kind of funny having a screen protector on a mock-up model phone. So same camera section, a brushed or matte finish on the frame in black. It does not feel titanium in the form of this model, but I would assume they would keep the titanium aspect for the Pro models. I don't know, these feel a little bit heavier. What does that mean on these? I don't know, but the materials on this feel more plasticky, obviously, than the actual official iPhone. But this is your Plus variant, same alteration. So I'll pull over the existing Plus, and there you can see the difference. Form factor looking fairly identical again, if not exact. Height, width, yeah. Sometimes these change slightly, but not this generation, it appears. These are, like I said, almost exact. Now the Plus model still has this secondary button section, which is tough to see on the black variant. So whatever that ends up being. Will says Apple Intelligence, which would be very cool if that was the case. But maybe even if it was just a programmable button, that would be cool.
Feel comfortable holding down and pressing that button?
Yeah, that's that area. Yeah, you can press it. You have to shift your hand down to here, hold it there. Your left hand, on the other hand, is lining right up with that. Now, if you go to the smaller phone, same idea. You hold here, you can press this. You slide up a little bit, you press here, slide down a little bit. It's this motion. You gotta do this motion in your hand. And next, we have a Pro model, also in black, and we have obviously a much bigger camera section, but the same layout that we're used to on the existing Pro. Now the materials feel identical between these two. I don't imagine that these are indicative of the actual materials that Apple will be using in any way. Sometimes the colors, as I mentioned, are, and if that's the case, then this black variant is quite black. Maybe more black than recent kind of almost black colors that Apple has used. And if I pull over the existing Pro, I have a device that is actually a little bit taller. That's interesting. So not identical in this case. This is a little touch taller. How much taller? Let's find out. So old model, calipers have the old one at 146.8 millimeters or 5.77 inches. The new one, 5.89 inches or 149.7 millimeters. So yes, this form factor has changed slightly. Let's check width. 7144, 2.81. Oh, that's a lot closer to identical. 2.8 or 7113. That could just be material differences. That's not a significant alteration compared to that height. That height has definitely changed. If these early mock-ups are accurate, then the next iPhone, the iPhone 16 Pro, will be taller than the iPhone 15 Pro. Let's check out the Pro Max. Here it looks like we have a 16 Pro Max in white and silver. Same button layout, huge phone, obviously even bigger than the Plus. The other interesting thing here, we have the same matte finish on Pro and non-Pro models. And if we compare this to the existing Pro Max, we have the same situation of a taller phone by an almost identical margin to the Pro model. And the width, once again, looks to be close to identical with a little bit of tolerance for the material differences from the actual iPhone to this model, so I don't think that's significant, but height is significant, and it should allow the display inside to grow ever so slightly with that small increase. So if you are thinking about picking up a new iPhone 16, then we will absolutely have you covered with later case products. These, of course, are extremely thin phone cases that are made of DuPont Kevlar, and